hear our introduction to the Feast of Hanukkah. We pray that you will give us understanding, for we ask this evening, as it said in your word, if any man lack wisdom, let him ask you. We ask for wisdom this evening. We ask for understanding. Circumcise our ears and our heart, that we will not continue to be stiff-necked as our Father. We bless you and thank you this evening. Amen.
Amen.
May you be seated. We're going to greet those who are watching this evening for tuning in as we approach the season that is ahead of us. Every season does come with a spirit. Every season does come with a spirit. So when you see that is something is happening, it's kind of like Halloween. It comes with a spirit. Matter of fact, they just bold to tell you now that the spirit of Halloween.
Yes, they do.
You know, they tell you, so it comes with a spirit, and so does Christmas and all the other feasts come with a spirit, whether that be the spirit of Satan or the spirit of the Most High.
Yes.
And so we just have to face that. But I want to talk to it because I know our time is short this evening. We're doing an hour studying. But I want to talk to us this evening about introduction to the Feast of Hanukkah. I know that when me and my wife came into the Feast of Hanukkah, or came into the Hebrew movement, or the returning back to the Torah, that we was introduced to the Feast of Hanukkah. And so we did the gift giving, we did the lights and the menorah, we did all those things. And so, but now we don't do those things. And so I want to talk about those things tonight. Why we don't do those things? Because I went and read the book.
Hallelujah.
You know, I mean, when people ask me in all honesty, when I came in, I just, I was so enthusiastic about, learning the Torah and so things. And so I did the same thing that we did in the Christian faith. We just went along.
Mm-hmm.
But because we study now. And so when I discovered that it wasn't about the Feast of Lights, as they call it, and the giving of gift, and how did I learn that? Not from no revelation, just I read the book.
Yeah.
And it was in the book, and so it's not there. So if you tuning in tonight and you think that Hanukkah is about gift giving or lighting the menorah, you probably want to change the channel. But if you want to know the whole truth and nothing but the truth, then tune in. And I know I'm not going to be able to give what glass is that? Oh, on the head or something?
No.
But I just laid them down somewhere. Yeah, I was up there, Miss Rose.
Yes, you were. Yes, sir.
Is they up there?
Yes, sir.
All right. And so we are a place that we because we study, then we're not stuck. We're not stuck on what we think is the truth, because we continue to study to show ourselves approved, and that's why we find out different things. And so let's turn to Proverbs chapter 18 for a moment first. Proverbs chapter 18, and someone can read verse 13, because I'm going to say some things tonight that probably just going to stun some people, going to shock some people. But I'm here to tell you that the Bible does say my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Am I right? So I don't want to jump out of one religion into another and keep a tradition.
Right.
Amen? We're not going to do that. So Proverbs chapter 18, verse 13 says what, Karen or Mike? Anyone else?
He that answereth a matter before he heareth it, it is folly and shame unto him.
That's all I'm saying. Just let me finish. Just let me hit. Come on now. Even the jury, listen now, huh? The jury don't raise their hands now. Can you repeat that? Even the jury waits. And so because sometimes we think because we have crossed over to the Hebrew or the truth, and then we think that on the long of our journey that we ain't picked up anything tradition. And if you begin to slow down and not just be eating everything that comes towards your way, you'll find out that yes, we have inherent tradition too.
Yes,
Amen. So don't be as he say, he that answer before a word or matter before he hear it, he's a fool. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's go to Matthew chapter 15. Matthew chapter 15. we'll pick it up in verse 1. Who has the microphone? Verse 1. You want to read?
Then Jesus was approached by Pharisees and scribes from Jerusalem, who asked, "Why do your disciples break the tradition of the elders? For they don't wash their hands when they eat?"
Okay, now listen to the question that they asked him. Why do your disciples transgress or break the tradition of the elders? Now, we're going to see it because this is Bible study night, right?
Yes,
so
sir.
we're going to see that, well, when just in a nutshell, it says we live in an information age. I can't find the lighting of the menorah. Might we just jump fast forward in the Maccabees? It's not there. So now the question would be then, if the lighting of the menorah is not in the book of Maccabees, then where did it come from? Well, tradition. Tradition of the elders. And so that's what we're going to be dealing with when we talk about Hanukkah. Tradition, tradition, tradition. So when people ask me this Hanukkah, why don't we light the menorah? It's a tradition. It's not a command. It's not in the book of the Maccabees. It's a tradition. Why don't we give gifts?
The tradition.
It's a tradition. You see, it's very important that we don't get caught up in somebody else's tradition. Now, if Judaism want to do that, that's their business. But Judaism does not have the override of the book. They don't control us. Matter of fact, when I began to share this with my mother-in-law, she was astonished. Just out her own mouth, she said, "Son-in-law, I stayed up to 2 o'clock in the morning because that means the Holy Spirit was working with her. She was receiving these things, and so because she wanted to know the truth, I was the one that introduced her to this way of lifestyle, so she know I ain't gonna lie to her.
Amen.
I don't mind that if I introduce something to you, then I find out later that, hey, this is an error. Or we gonna change.
No.
We made that menorah out there. That thing ain't going nowhere. Once we found out, we said, "No, we're not doing it anymore. Take them other two sticks over there, and we're going back." Huh? I ain't afraid to stand up and say, hey, this ain't right. We have to be able to do that. Why? Because as spiritual scientists, that's what we are. Spiritual scientists, that when we in the spiritual laboratory examine the things, when you find out that something ain't working, you don't do it no more.
Right.
We ain't going to hang on to something because it's a tradition and it makes us feel good.
No.
So that's very important. So Yeshua understand the tradition. And so he said, "Nah, we're not doing tradition. Tradition is good in itself, but not when it's contrary to the word of God. And then not if I'm teaching something like it's the word of God. That's not good." So now let's talk a little bit about Hanukkah. So when we think of Hanukkah, we're going to work this thing together. When we think of Hanukkah, okay, what we think about? I'm talking about before I even came to the truth. I thought it was the menorah.
Right.
Anybody did the menorah? Did you like the menorah? Did you used to think that?
I thought it was a gift.
The gift? Okay, so what you thought about when you heard about the Hanukkah, what you thought?
I didn't know anything.
Anything, what you thought?
I
The
didn't
gifts.
The gift, what you thought?
Menorah.
Menorah, what y'all thought?
The gifts and the menorah.
The gifts and the menorah.
And the dreidel.
And the dreidel. See, all that stuff. And did any of us ever know where any of that stuff came from?
No.
You read the Maccabees, you don't find none of that. So I'm trying to get, and then believe me, that those who grew up in what you want to call a Jewish homes, they were just going about like they told about Santa Claus. Am I right? We never checked out with Santa Claus when we just went along. Because why? The gift. I mean, that's all kids.
That's
So I'm just
what
saying,
Mary.
when you think about Hanukkah, people think about different things. Okay? So when we think, okay, the question again, when you think about the 8 branches candlestick called the Hanukkah and drill, where does stuff come from? All I'm saying, Mr. Rabbi, where does stuff come from? It's not in the book, because we're going to look at the book of Maccabees. If the story of the Maccabees or Hanukkah come from the story of the Maccabees, shouldn't it be in there?
Yeah.
And we're going to see that if we get time tonight. So these are questions that we need to ponder on. Where did the giving up gift come from? Where did that come from? Well, this is just one of my theories that I remember reading, that because when they came into the Western world and their kids were going to the schools, and then December, because remember, Hanukkah is always in the wintertime, right? In the wintertime, close by Christmas. So what you gonna do? The Jewish kids going home and they getting gifts. So the parents had to do something that seemed to be good, but in reality, it became a tradition. It's passed down to us today. If you look up Hanukkah, it's all going to be about the lighting of the menorah, giving them gift, and the dreidel, right? I mean, just all those things. And so, if you want to do those things, that's fine, but that's taken away from the real meaning of Hanukkah. We're going to look at that. Let me see what else. So the question is, what does the feast really mean? How should we celebrate this year? What does it really mean, and how shall we celebrate this year? Now, to really understand this here, we have to let's go to Daniel. We'll do a little homework tonight. Daniel chapter 2. We know that Nebuchadnezzar had a dream, right? He had a dream. We're going to look at the whole dream, but he had a dream. Nobody in his wise man could solve this dream or this dream he had. But Daniel could, okay? Now we're going to pick it up in Daniel chapter 2. We're going to pick it up in verse 31. Anyone, verse 31.
Verse 31. Thou, O king, sawest and beheld a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. This image's head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, and his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. Thou sawest till that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and brake them to pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors. And the wind carried them away, and no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king.
Mm-hmm.
Thou, O king, art a king of kings, for the God of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. And whosoever the children of man, and wheresoever the children of man dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven hath he given into thine hand. And he hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold. 39. And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break into pieces and bruise.
Okay, now we see these four kingdoms, right? Four kingdoms. We know that Nebuchadnezzar is the head, which is the gold, right? Now, Daniel giving us a prophecy, or the Most High giving us an end time prophecy. We discovered that the first one was Babylon, the second one was Persia, and the third one Greece, and the fourth one
Rome.
Okay, now these four, if you can understand the beasts, who these four beasts are, they does not change when you go to the book of Revelation. You cannot know the book of Revelation without knowing the book of Daniel. Now watch this here. Because to understand Hanukkah, you have to understand the book of Daniel. Let's go to Daniel chapter 8. I'm going to show you something. Daniel chapter 8. And this is just in a nutshell here. Let's go to Daniel chapter 8. Now, Daniel is given the same vision, but in a more detail. Okay? In a more detail in chapter 7. Okay? But we ain't going to read that one. So if you want to study these four beasts, read Daniel chapter 2, and Daniel chapter 7, okay? And then, if you really want to go deeper, you read Isaiah chapter 13 and 14, and Jeremiah chapter 50 and 51, And Revelation chapter 17 and 18, all about Babylon. It's all about Babylon. See, it's much more. To really understand Hanukkah and what's going on in time prophecy, because we're gonna find out who this people that comes on the scene later, which is the third kingdom that we're going to look at, very fierce kingdom, and we know his name by the name of Alexander the Great, right?
Right.
So we have to understand that Daniel is prophesying the feast of Hanukkah way before it even came on the scene. Very important, okay? Now, watch this here. In Daniel chapter 8, I said, right?
Yes, sir.
Let's pick it up. Daniel chapter 8. Let's pick it up in verse 1. Then we're going to read a little bit, then I'll jump down.
In the 3rd year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, even unto me, Daniel, after that which appeared unto me at the first. And I saw in a vision, and it came to pass, when I saw, that I was at Shazan in the palace, which is in the province of Elm, and I saw in a vision, and I was by the river Ua. Then I lifted up mine eyes, and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had 2 horns.
Now keep in mind, a ram, because he's going to give you the interpretation of it. We ain't got to figure out what he's talking about. Watch, later on, watch. A ram, right? Having 2 horns, right? Go ahead.
And the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other.
Go ahead.
And the higher came up last.
Go ahead.
And I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him. Neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand. But he did according to his will and became great. And as I was considering, behold, and he goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. Verse 6. And he came to the ram that had 2 horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran into him in the fury of his power. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his 2 horns, and there was no power in the ram to stand before him. But he cast him down to the ground, and stomped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great toward the south, and toward the east, and toward the pleasant land. And it waxed great, even to the host of heaven.
Okay, now let's figure out who these horns are. Let's jump down to verse 19 for the sake of time. Okay, now we saw a ram, then a he-goat, right? Go ahead.
And he said, behold, I will make thee know what shall be in the last end of the indignation, for at the time appointed the end shall be.
Okay, here we go.
The ram which thou sawest having 2 horns are the kings of Media and Persia.
Now keep this in mind. The Bible always interprets itself. It really does. The Bible always interprets itself. When we don't understand something, it's because there's a verse that we're not connected. The Bible interprets itself. There's no private interpretation. So when we find ourselves don't understand something, it's because we don't understand the scripture. We'll find out even in Peter, Acts chapter 10, when Peter saw that vision of the clothes, and Peter say, I didn't even understand. But it's amazing how many people say, I understand what Peter was talking about. But Peter said, I didn't even understand. So there are certain things in scripture that we don't understand, but the interpretation is in the scripture. That means that we gotta search it, Proverbs 25 verse 2 said that it's the glory of the Most High to what? To conceal a thing, but it's the honor of king to search it out. You see? So now we don't even have to guess who is the ram or who's the he-goat, right? Watch this here. Go ahead.
Verse 21. And the rough goat is the king of Grecia, which is Greece, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. Now that being broken, whereas four stood up for it, 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power. And in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up. And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. And he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. And the vision of the evening and the morning, which was told, is true. Wherefore shut thou up the vision, for it shall be for many days. And I, Daniel, fainted and was sick certain days. Afterward I rose up and did the king's business, and I was astonished at the vision, but none understood it.
You didn't understand. Now here's Daniel, a prophet. So what's wrong with me if I say I don't understand something? Daniel seeing these things to come, but it was sealed up. So Daniel stuck on the last beast, the one that his kingdom was divided, right? In verse 22, now being broken, whereas four stood up for it, for 4 kingdoms shall stand out his nation. So we know that Alexander the Great, 4 kings came out.
Right.
Now we're going to talk about the one that was vile and wicked, which we know his name as Antiochus. So in the book of Maccabees, if you ain't got this book, get it. It's called it's the Septuagint, written around 250 BC. This closer than anything else that you can get. This was copied from the Hebrew text by Alexander the Great, who was so in love with the Greek language that he wanted to flood the world with the Greek culture. Yes, he did. So if anybody want a close text to the Hebrew text, get this Septuagint, running about like $34,000, $43,000. Okay. Now we're going to pick it up on this kingdom being divided, because it's very important if you're going to understand the Feast of Hanukkah, okay, or the Feast of Dedication, which is the proper term. Now, mark these. We're going to look at the Greek period. Now, the Greek period run from 331 to 167 BC. Also, it is known as Hellenist. So, if you see this term in the New Testament as Hellenist, I wrote it down here. It's in Acts chapter 6, verse 1. Acts chapter 9, verse 29. And Acts chapter 11, verse 20. All it means is Greek-speaking Jews. You have to understand that Alexander had conquered. Remember, he had conquered that world. He was that swift animal, that leopard that didn't even hit the ground. You know, that's how fast he went. And in a few years he had conquered, but then he died. He got sick and died. That's what we're gonna look at maybe tonight or Thursday night. But this is where it starts at. Okay. So now let's look at this here and say Alexander the Great was the son of King Philip of Macedonia, north of Greece. In 336 BC, at the age of 20, he assumed command of the Greek army and swept eastward over the land that has been under the rule of Egypt, Assyria, and Babylon, and Persia. Now, this is very important. If you're going to understand, listen, if you're going to understand the New Testament, as we call it, you cannot understand it without understanding the Greek and the Roman. Because why? We're going from the Old Testament from Babylon, the Persia, the Canaanite, the Hittite. And once you shift to the New Testament time, Alexander the Great and Rome, and it's a whole different system. It's a whole different system. And so you have to understand the shift that you got to make. So now we are at the period that Alexander the Great has come on the scene, has conquered the Medes and the Persians, right? See, you can't know Hanukkah, the Feast of Dedication, if you bypass all this.
Yeah.
This is history right here. Yeah. We have to know, how do we get up to what happened? I'm gonna tell you what's going on. It is a culture flash going on right now. It's a culture flash. If you don't believe that the Greeks won, then why we have trouble in our culture now? Our universities are built on Greek. Am I right? Our culture is built on the Romans. So who you think won the war? And the war was with our minds. The same way, if we would not have beat the Germans, what would we be speaking today?
German.
This thing is a war culture of the mind. So Alexander the Great, now watch this here. In 331 BC, the whole world, when Alexander invaded, I hate when they use Palestine, because Palestine is Palestine in Hebrew. It means land of the Philistine. I don't know why they want to call it Palestine. Think about that. You call it, even today they call it that, don't they? I don't get it. And y'all supposed to know Hebrew? Come on, man, that don't make sense to me. Okay, in 330 BC, he showed great consideration toward the Yehuda, spared Jerusalem, and offered Yehuda introduction to settlement. Other words, that when he came to Jerusalem, they paid him homage. And so because they respected him, he didn't destroy the city. And then some of the Yehuda began to name their kids after Alexander. Yeah. So that's what he did. He established Greek cities in all his dominion with the intent of spreading. I'm telling you, this is what this dude was doing. Spreading the Greek culture. Name some of the philosophers that came out of the Greek culture. Plato.
Socrates.
Homer. Oh, I'm telling you, I'm telling you, you don't understand it. Their whole mind was to flood with the Greek thought. All our images, the perfect statues, Greek. The perfect body, Greek. All of it, the nudity, Greek. Hebrews were not into the pornography. That's Greek and Roman, am I right? We're not over to that stuff, that's perversion.
Right.
And so it said to spread the Greek culture and Greek language throughout the world. Remember I said here, culture and language. I want you to catch this because this is what's going to happen when we get to the book of Maccabees. We're going to see, how did Hanukkah come about? What is the Feast of Hanukkah? And I don't like using the feast because it seems like we're going to eat, which we do celebrate the thing. But really, when you think about it, as we read about Hanukkah, the slaughter that went on, it's like we can come in here and celebrate and bring about 10 veterans in here while we feasting, their mind thinking about their brothers that they're lost. Yeah. Am I right? So while we feasting, I told Roy that I say, yeah, let's bring Judah Maccabee and them in here and let us have a feast. And they're like, how can y'all do? Let's bring my Indian brothers in here and then try to celebrate Thanksgiving in front of them. Yeah. Come on, Israel. We're going to put that away sooner or later. Am I right? Yeah. Bring my Indian brothers in here and let us continue to try to celebrate Thanksgiving and see how they look at us. Y'all didn't know that, did you? Yeah, y'all knew that.
I heard.
It's the same thing I'm saying. I know we did. I know, but at least we becoming conscious of this stuff. Okay, hey, y'all. We have to stand with our brothers. But I said to someone today, I said, now, is celebrating Thanksgiving a sin? No, it's a moral conviction. You have to have a moral conviction. See, because none of us ain't got no brother or sister that I know of. If I had a friend, that I had a companion that was a Indian, it'd be a different story, wouldn't it? See, because we don't have one. But if we had one here, it'd be a different story. And so that's something that that we're going to have a community conviction about. No condemnation. No condemnation. Somebody got a teaching and want to come and teach us about educators, because how can conviction come without information? We need information, and let's be serious. This is what this thing is about. Because I would not want anybody to celebrate our defeat, would we? No, we don't. But that's what we're doing.
I wish I don't the same.
Oh my goodness. Okay, now after a brief reign, he died in 323 BC at the age of 33. His empire did not last, but his dream did. Greek language and culture, Hellenes, would dominate the world for many centuries. Now we know that who's going to conquer the Greeks are the Romans, but the Romans they never invent nothing. Whatever your God wills, we just put it alongside our God. That's what America do. Oh, we don't care what God, just bring your God here. Put it alongside our God. That's how the Romans did. They didn't bought the Greeks didn't care, the Romans didn't care. Y'all remember the scene that Paul at the Mars Hill? And Paul, as he stood there, and he was moved by the Holy Ghost. When he saw the people given into idolatry, he said he saw all these altars. Remember all these altars? Then he saw the altar to the unknown God. In other words, they didn't care who they worship to. Let's just sacrifice. And that's how Americans are today. All our gods the same. Now his kingdom was divided. Okay, let's jump down here. Now let's deal with King Antiochus. They call him a madman. So now he began to be what happened. Okay, I'm going to read it in a short thing. Antiochus the fifth or the fourth was frustrated by the Yehuda. Why was he frustrated by them, y'all? Why was he frustrated? Because they would not give up their identity. They would not worship their God. He turned violent, bitter, and against them, and made fierce, determined effort to exterminate them and their religion. So he came to Jerusalem, desecrated the temple by offering a pig, a ceremony unclean, according to the law of Moses on the altar. He put on their altar a god of Zeus, a statue of Zeus, the main Greek god, which we call today in Rome as Jupiter. Now, this is how the beginning of Hanukkah began. Okay, remember that Alexander died. He died, okay? So let's read some. That time be flying so good. Mike, I'm gonna need you to read some for me. Boy, that fast. I want to be up here sounding like Wolfman Jack. No.
I almost got you some water.
Now, he's going to read here, okay? Now, we know that Alexander died. You cannot understand the story of the Maccabees if you don't have the book of Hanukkah. And so those who are watching, get the book, the Septuagint, okay, that have the story of Hanukkah in it, so that you can verify this self. Is there an incident of giving presents? Is there an incident of the oil making? Let's verify this here. So he's going to read in chapter 1, and we'll see how far that we can get. Oh, see them.
And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Shittim, and smitten Darius, king of Persia and Medes, that he reigned in his stead and first over Greece, and made many wars and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoil of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him. Whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up. And he gathered a mighty strong host, and ruled over countries and nations, and the kings, who became tributaries unto him. And after these things he fell sick, and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he had been brought up. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. And his servants bare rule everyone in his place. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. And they came out of them a wicked group, Antiochus.
That little horn that Daniel talked about, that little horn. That's what Daniel talking about. Right here, he prophesied this here.
Surnamed Epiphanes,
Madman.
son of Antiochus, the king, who had been a hostage at Rome. He reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of Greeks. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. So this device pleased them well.
Now notice, because when you read Daniel chapter 8 and then Daniel chapter 11, it tells this whole story. That it's going to talk about how those that are out of Israel, they begin to persuade others to join the Greeks. It's like if you can't beat them, just join them. And so that means that this, even though this speaking about now, but it's also speaking of a future time, because Yeshua quoted Daniel and said, as it was in the days of Daniel. So that means that he's not talking about that what happened to Daniel. He's talking about a future Antiochus, which we know today as the Antichrist.
Right.
So another one is coming. These incidents are written to encourage us to stand up. Very important. Go ahead.
That certain of the people were so forward therein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen, whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen, and made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief.
Now, watch this here. He's talking about these are leaders. These are leaders. Now, how can you make yourself uncircumcised?
Right. I just had that question in my head.
How can you make yourself uncircumcised? The only way is by not keeping the Torah. Because as I was talking to someone the other day, when he said, okay, now, the person asked me now, so if you don't get circumcised, because the whole conversation about circumcision, I say, well, the true circumcision is of the heart.
Right.
So you can cut your flesh all you want to, but if your heart ain't circumcised, then your flesh circumcision means nothing.
Right.
So they decide not to keep the Torah. Read that again. I think it's 4 things that they decided not to do. And now these ain't the heathens yet. Now watch how, because the heathens gonna see what they're doing, they say, oh yeah, we're gonna pacify y'all. We'll go along with it. So they decide to do what, Mike?
Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen.
Custom of the heathen. This ain't the Greeks doing this here. These are our leaders doing this here.
Yeah.
So I want you to think, who we gonna have trouble out of? The leaders. The leaders. Go ahead.
And made themselves uncircumcised.
Don't want to obey the Torah no more.
Come on, Pastor.
And
Go ahead.
forsook the holy covenant.
Forsook the holy covenant. Notice that. What else they did?
And joined themselves to the heathen.
Come on now. They joined themselves. Not force. The Antichrist ain't gonna have to force a lot of people to mark. Go ahead.
Now, when the kingdom was established before Antiochus,
Uh-huh.
he thought to reign over Egypt, that he might have the dominion of 2 realms. Wherefore he entered into Egypt with a great multitude, with chariots and with elephants and horsemen, and a great navy, and made war against Ptolemy, king of Egypt. But Ptolemy was afraid of him and fled, and many were wounded to death.
Now, Ptolemy was the one, he was, if you read Daniel chapter 8 and 11, and then it'll say the king of the north, the king of the south, he was part of Alexander the Greek. Now, because they separated, he got his own thing. This is power. It's power. What we seeing on the news now, we seeing the power fight. Let them fight. Ain't our business. Yeah. Go ahead.
Verse 19. Thus they got the strong cities in the land of Egypt, and he took the spoils thereof. And after that, Antiochus had smitten Egypt. He returned again in the 140th year, 143rd year, and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude, and entered proudly into the sanctuary, and took away the golden altar and the candlestick of light, and all the vessels thereof, and the table of the showbread, and the pouring vessels, and the vials, and the censers of gold, and the veil, and the crowns, and the golden ornaments that were before the temple, all which he pulled off. He took also the silver and the gold, and the precious vessels. Also he took the hidden treasures which he found.
And that's something. They always want to go in and raid the house. Where we saw that from? Nebuchadnezzar, huh? What you got, Miss Rose?
Okay, well, now see, I'm kind of lost here
Uh-huh.
because we have Babylon,
Uh-huh.
right? We have Nebuchadnezzar.
Uh-huh.
Then we have his son Belshazzar,
Uh-huh.
and he's drinking and eating from
Uh-huh.
the vessels.
Uh-huh.
So they have taken the vessels. Okay, so then Alexander the Great comes and takes the vessels from them.
No, remember that when King Cyrus allowed them to go back, King Cyrus gave them all the stuff.
That's right. That's right.
Think about that, because
Okay.
now we're not at
Right.
586. You know what I'm saying? We're not at 586
Yeah.
or 536. So now we're on the line. And Daniel, this is what I'm saying. Daniel, by the Spirit of the Most High, let us know the end time prophecy. Who's going to be ruling right now and who's going to be ruling at the end.
Right. Okay.
See, very important. So this is history right here.
Right. You got me on track.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Verse 20. And after that, Antiochus had smitten Egypt. He returned again in 24. And when he had taken all away, he went into his own land, having made a great massacre and spoken very proudly. Therefore, there was great mourning in Israel.
Great what? Celebration.
Great mourning.
See,
Right.
and you can read this here in Daniel chapter 8, Daniel chapter 11. That's why Daniel said, I was so faint. He's saying this stuff. He's saying this here. But Daniel said, I didn't understand it. But now we see it because when you start studying the book of Daniel, you're going to run about critics and say, well, the book of Daniel was written later. One word to solve all this here. Yeshua quoted the book of Daniel. So if Yeshua is not telling the truth, then he's not the right Messiah. He's a liar. So I don't want to hear about all the critics say about Daniel. Yeshua say, listen, remember the abomination that happened to Daniel. Remember that. So he's telling us that this is going to happen again. One, each generation. Go ahead.
There was great mourning in Israel, in every place where they were, so that the prince and the elders mourned, and the virgins and the young men were made feeble, and the beautiful women was changed, and the beauty of women was changed. Every bridegroom took up lamentation, and she that sat in the marriage chamber was in heaviness. The land was also moved for the inhabitants thereof, and all the house of Jacob was covered with confusion.
It's a lot, ain't it? A lot going on. Now, we're going to jump over. Now, watch what he's going to decide to do now. So watch how the enemy works, because if you read Daniel 8 and 11 again, you will see how he's going to deceive many by flattery. Oh, the Antichrist are going to have tongue. He's going to deceive us. If we don't know the book, this man going to be able, according to the book of Revelation, to call down fire, to do miracles. So you better know. You better know what the word says, because this is going to be very deceptive. And we have to understand that he deceived Eve by words. So how would he deceive us? By words, lying, signs, and wonders. So now he's going to say something else. What else is he going to do? He's going to take it up here.
Verse 41. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote in his whole kingdom that all should be one people.
Now, I want all the pastors that's listening. Listen what Antiochus or Antichrist going to say to Yehuda, the children of God, that I want y'all to do. And watch how they are doing that today and not even knowing it. Go ahead.
And everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yeah, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion.
What?
And sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath.
Look at that. So not only the heathen doing it, but we got some Israelites doing that.
Right.
So it's like it's not only that the heathen or the heathens keeping Sunday, the Israelites are doing it. It's the same thing. Nothing new under the sun. And this is what Hanukkah is going to be about. Because we're going to stand up in this season. Are we going to fight against what is right in the book?
Yeah.
Or are we going to crumble and bow down to the Greeks and the Romans? Yeah. Same thing. Everybody got to fight with this here.
Yes, sir.
Every season, we got to fight with it.
Yes, sir.
So you got to know. So the season coming up, right?
Right.
You better put on your spiritual boxing gloves.
That's right.
It's coming. And if you knock your spiritual family out, they ain't coming back. Y'all keep tapping them. You better knock them out. Mama said what? Go ahead.
Verse 44. For the king has sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths.
Do you hear that?
Festival days.
This what the king is saying. They think, listen, our king didn't tell us to do this here. This is where it's coming from. King Akhenaten told us not to keep the Sabbath. Start over again, verse
44. For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land, and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbath and the festival days. Verse 46. And pollute the sanctuary and holy people, set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts, that they should also leave their children uncircumcised and make their souls abominable with all manners of uncleanness and profanation.
Now, this is what I'm talking about. This is what Hanukkah. Now, what you gonna do? We're not in control. The king, he's in control.
Right.
What would you do? The same way with Daniel in Babylon. Bow down. What you gonna do? There's no way, guys, that we're gonna get out of here without being tested like our brothers and sisters. I'm just telling you. So if we cannot handle the little testing by telling our family, say, no, we ain't coming. If we can't handle that, and they ain't trying to kill you, at least yet.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
But I'm saying all these little tests is to build us up.
Okay.
To build us up. When you have to tell your family and it's burning inside of you, that's just a little fire. So all this is gonna come again. Yeshua said it's gonna come.
Right.
So he don't want us to be in darkness. So he sent our people before us to endure that so we can look at them and be encouraged. Yeah. That's what it's about. That we can go through the same fire that the Hebrew boys come out of, and that's just it. Don't smell nothing. Man, you can't even tell. Huh? The thing that we're gonna go through, people say, you went through what? Because we're gonna come out on the other side not even looking like it. And people are gonna look at us like we ain't been through nothing.
That's right.
So we in this together. If you can't bow by yourself, grab us. We ain't bowing with you. We'll stand with you.
Yeah.
So you have to know that you're not standing by yourself. You got us. You need a safe place. Can't give my address online, but you know where I'm at. But really though, find a safe place. If you can't take it, we'll make a pattern. Come on over here.
That's right.
Where you go?
That's right.
It's just a season. Some of us ain't able to bear it yet. We'll bear it with you. We'll endure with you. We'll stand with you. Think about that.
You don't have to.
Yeah. We might as well do it now.
Get rid of those burdens.
Yeah. This is serious stuff. This is serious stuff. And we see that Yeshua said it's gonna happen again. When he said, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of Daniel, he's not talking about that's already done. That's already taken care of. So what is he talking about? So had that happened yet?
Nope.
No, it hasn't. So he can't be talking about what happened to the Maccabees. So he's talking about another one's going to happen. Think about that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So when we see the book of Revelation, the Antichrist, Antiochus, and they say the Antichrist is going to make Antiochus and Hitler look like girls. So we see plenty of pictures of the Antichrist in scripture. We saw Nebuchadnezzar, he didn't care about the young or the old, did he?
Right.
Nebuchadnezzar roast his enemies on fire. He put out your eyes. So when you think about that, what kind of courage did Daniel and them have when they knew the reputation of this man? Where did they get their courage from?
They knew their God. They knew their
I'm like, this dude roasts on fire and put your eye out. But Daniel and them had the courage to say, hey, listen, man, we ain't doing it. So that means that our inner strength has to come from him. Because why? We by nature want to live. By nature, we want to survive. Am I right? Huh? We want to run. But there's gonna come a time when we can't run. We have to decide at the book of Revelation say they love not their life even to death. We read just a few more, then we shut down.
Verse 49. To the end that they might forget the law and change all the ordinances. And whosoever will not do according to the commandment of the king.
Now, Yeshua,
The king.
the Most High.
The king.
What king?
Antiochus.
The pagan Antioch, the Antichrist. So whoever would listen to the king, what are he gonna do?
He said he should die.
See, ain't the same story. Daniel, them? Ain't nothing changed. And that's why Yeshua said, I tell you beforehand, so before it happened, you would know. These ain't no fables that we follow. Ain't no fables. And so this is what I was just like flowing today. It's like the Holy Spirit is our teacher, right? I say, so the Holy Spirit is our teacher. So as I'm just going at the house doing my thing, then so if the Holy Spirit is our teacher, then say, oh, the world is our classroom. The world is our classroom. So the world's been used to see, do we understand what we're learning? So there's nowhere that we can escape that we don't learn something.
That's right.
So it's best that we learn it so we don't have to continue to repeat it. Think about that. So the Holy Spirit, we see, I think it was like in Mark, when Yeshua was baptized, it said, and the Holy Spirit did what? Drove him into the wilderness. To be tempted. Wow. See, the Holy Spirit leads us. And we noticed that through Daniel and the Hebrew boys, there was no promotion without tribulation.
That's right.
Wouldn't it? Huh? So these same tribulations that we're going through, like, okay, it gotta be a promotion on here somewhere. Somewhere. That's how we have to start thinking about it. Promotion. Where's it gonna come from? Without tribulation. Without tribulation. What else you got?
Verse 51. In the same self manner wrote he to his whole kingdom and appointed overseers over all the people, commanding the cities of Judah to sacrifice city by city.
Now we'll stop right there. What verse is that?
That's verse 51.
Now notice that he said he put overseers. What do you think the Roman Catholic Church is? Overseers. They're overseeing what? If the Most High has a ecclesia, a bride, then Satan has to have a bride watching over the seed of the woman. As I told y'all the other day, because the enemy know that Judah has found out who they are, then I gotta wipe Judah out.
Yeah.
We ain't never seen these killings like this before.
Yeah.
This thing ain't about no white and black. We keep thinking it is. Judah, trace the scripture. Once they found out that Judah was, that the seed of the woman was coming through Judah, everywhere Judah went, Haman, boom, huh? Yeah, Rome. Everybody, Judah went. It wasn't about killing Israel no more. It was about let's get Judah. Why? Because they were trying to stop the Messiah from coming through. You see? And it's like the old saying, Dave, if the mob can't take you out, they take the family, right? So that's what he's trying to do now. And so we have to understand that we are brothers and sisters, no matter what color we are. If you have the blood of Yeshua, that's who we are. And so we have to understand who is the enemy. But the feast of dedication or the feast of Hanukkah, just think about the word dedication. We're going to be dedicated to each other, dedicated to the feast, dedicated to the cause. That's what Hanukkah means. Those guys would not have survived if they wasn't dedicated to the cause. And those who wasn't, what they did, they joined them. But those who were dedicated said, "Nah, we're not giving up like that. We going down for the holy covenant." So that's the end of that. Any comments, guys? Yeah, that's how I do. Amen. And as we begin to get towards, as we begin to move towards the Brit Hadashah, we get to where Yeshua did. When people say, well, Jesus didn't celebrate Hanukkah. Well, I say, sir, ma'am, let me tell you something. If Hanukkah was not defeated by Judah Maccabees, don't worry about Yeshua, because he wouldn't be here. He wouldn't be here. That was Judah, Israel being attacked. And the enemy wants to attack out to destroy Judah because of the seed of the woman. So if you don't want to celebrate the Feast of Dedication, then that's you. But if it wasn't for them standing up fighting, we would have no Messiah, no salvation, no kingdom.
Hallelujah.
Just that simple. I don't understand when people say stuff like that.
They don't understand.
Don't understand.
That's all.
It wouldn't be the same way the book of Esther. If Esther and Mordecai stood up, there'd be no Messiah. That's all it is. Father, we bless you. We thank you for another one of the evening. We thank you, Father, as we move toward the Feast of Dedication, the Feast of Hanukkah, that just as you were dedicated, Yahuwah was dedicated always to the cross, may we be dedicated always to the end. We bless you and we thank you in the mighty name of Yeshua. Amen.
Amen.
That's all I got because my voice is gone. I said that's all I got. I did say that, didn't I?